Hey guys, today we're talking about slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form helps us when the function is not proportional but is still a linear relationship. For example, if it crosses the y-axis at a different point other than 0, 0, then we use slope-intercept form. This right here is the equation for slope-intercept form. If we notice, this first part, y equals mx, is something similar to what we had when it crossed at 0, 0. But this plus b allows you to have your intercept now. Okay, so make sure you have this written down in your notebook. So let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's try to identify the slope and the y-intercept of each one of these. So in the example that I have here, y equals 2/3 x plus a -4. Well, our slope is the number that's always in front of x, or our m. So our slope is 2/3, and our y-intercept in this case would be -4. And even though there is a negative here, it's not just a +4. This whole thing is negative because it's plus b, and we could just have this written out. Okay, so be careful with ones like that. Make sure that you recognize that that negative is attached to the 4, so our b is -4. Okay, go ahead and try these in your notebook. When you're done, I want you to unpause the video and grab a red pen so you can check it. Okay, so what I did for A, B, and C is I wrote my slope first, which is -5 in this case, and my B second, which is 3 in this case. My slope and my y-intercept. Here, my slope is 1/4, or my m, and my b, or my y-intercept, is -6. This one's tricky. A -x is really a -1x. Like if I have a rotten apple, I have one rotten apple. So if I have a -x, my slope is -1, and my b, or my y-intercept, is 5. So what if they ask us to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form and they give us those things? Well, if they tell us that the slope is -3, then we know that it's going to be a -3 times x. And if our y-intercept is a -4, then we know we're adding a -4, which is really just like subtracting 4. Okay, so if we look at this one, this is now in slope-intercept form. The first step is to write slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, and then plug in what you know, and then simplify. What if they ask us to write an equation from a graph? For example, if we see our point of intersection where it's intercepting on the y-axis is right here, then we know that that is at 4. It's 4 units above the origin, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we know the slope is going down 1, but +2. So when we look at this, we can say that our slope is -1/2 and our y-intercept is 4. So when we plug it into y equals mx plus b, it's going to look something like this. Y equals -1/2 x plus 4. Okay, so let's look at stuff like this. Student Council is selling t-shirts during Spirit Week. It costs $20 for the design and $5 to print each shirt. The cost is y to print the shirts, which would be our x, because we don't know our number of shirts. So if you think about it, the cost is going to depend on the number of shirts that people buy. So your x is always your independent variable, and your y is always your dependent variable. So in this case, we are graphing y equals 5x plus 20 because it's costing me $5 times my t-shirt, and I'm adding on $20 for the design. So once we find our slope and our y-intercept, we can begin graphing. Okay, so we talked about this already. What is the independent and dependent variable is down here. If you want to write any of that down, pause the video and do so. But if you look here, we are going to intercept our y-axis at 20 because at no shirts that I'm buying, I'm paying $20 still. And then it's going to rise $5 and run $1 for every shirt. So every one shirt, rise $5 because it's costing me $5. Okay, you try these right here for me. Go ahead and pause the video. This might take you a little bit of time. And when you're finished, grab your red pen because I'm going to start showing you what I have done. Okay, the Vera family is traveling from Philadelphia to Orlando for vacation. The equation y equals 1,000 minus 65x represents the distance in miles remaining in their trip. Graph the equation first and interpret the slope in the y-axis. So if I graph the equation and I put this in y equals mx plus b form, I know that I'm starting at 1,000 because 1,000 is my b, or my y-intercept. I know that I am falling negative 65, so down 65 every one, and so if we look at this, every 1 mile, So the driving rate is 65 miles per hour, and the distance that they began their trip was 1,000 miles away. Okay, so they had 1,000 miles to travel, and gradually over time, they're going to get closer to their destination. So the independent variable in this case is my hours, because hours are independent of the miles. Depending on the number of hours you drive, that's how many miles you're going to end up driving. So my x, or my independent variable, is hours, and my y are the number of miles. Okay, if we look at this one, my equation would be y equals 5/4 x minus 12, because you're rising 5 and running 4, and you're intercepting at negative 12. So 5/4 x minus 12. If we look at this one, you're intersecting the y-axis at a positive 5, and we are falling 1 but running 3, so my slope is negative 1/3. If we write an equation in slope-intercept form, we just plug them in. And remember to simplify. This is no longer a plus a negative 2, it's just a minus 2. Okay, the next step is finding your slope from 2 points, which we've already sort of done, right? We've already found slope from a point, but now we want to find it and find the entire equation. So this can be a little complex. So write down these steps for me. Go ahead and pause the video and then make sure that you have this written down. The first step is to find the slope and then plug in one of the points into your equation to find your b. For example, if I found out that the slope of these 2 points was a negative 4/5, okay, because I put it in the y1, oops, I was going to write m. Okay, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and I find my slope. Now I pick a point, and it doesn't matter which one, it'll work for both. I pick a point and I plug in my 8 for my x, which goes here, and my y as 1, which goes here. And I simplify. 8 times a negative 4/5 is a negative 32/5. So I have 1 equals negative 32/5. And I'm adding it to both sides, and when I do so, I'm left with my b as my variable. This is a one-step equation after you simplify. Okay, let's look at another one. Write the equation of a line that passes through the points 3, 0 and 6, negative 3. Okay, the first step I want you to do is find the slope. Go ahead and try it for me. All right, pause the video, and here we go. I'm going to show you how to find the slope first. So if you look at my work here, we have our y's, and we're subtracting them. So 6 minus 3, and a negative 3 minus 0, which is negative 3, and 3 divided by negative 3 is a negative 1. If you did your slope like this, 3 minus 6 is negative 3, and 0 minus a negative 3 is a positive 3, you'd still get negative 1. Okay, so let's look at now what we need to plug in. So we're going to plug in our slope for our m, and that would be y equals negative 1x plus b. Now we're going to plug in a point. I'm going to plug in the one with the 0 because that seems easier for me. So 0 goes in for y, negative 1 times 3 for x plus b. So 0 equals a negative 3 plus b, and if I add 3 to both sides, I get b equals 3. So let's plug it back into the equation. Y equals my slope, which is a negative x plus 3. This would be our equation that we would use. Over here, our equation that we would use for this one would be y equals our slope, which was a negative 4/5 times x plus 7.4 for our b. Okay, let's try one more example. Go ahead and try it for me, and I'll be back in just a second to show you my answer. Okay, so here's what I did. So take a look, you get 1/2, but it's a negative. If you did it this way, it was a negative 12 over 6, or that's simplified. Oh, it's not 1/2, it's 2. Oh my gosh, I'm crazy here, people. Sorry about that. That would be a negative 2 and a negative 2. So that's what we're going to plug in for our slope. All right, so we get y equals negative 2x plus b. Pick your point. I'm going to pick this one because it seems easier to me than bigger numbers. So negative 2 times negative 1 plus b, and this whole thing should equal a positive 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. So we're left with on this side 2 plus b. So what number has to be added to b to give us 2? Well, if I take 2 away, I'm left with 0 on this side, so b equals 0. So my formula should be y equals, and my m, which is negative 2, times my x plus 0, so it's really just this. All right, let's look at one final example. You want to throw your best friend a party. The cost to have 10 people is $120. The cost to have 25 people is $275. Write an equation to represent the cost for X number of people. So these are your points. At 10 people, it costs $120. At 25 people, it costs $275. Find your slope and find your b. Ready, set, go. Pause the video and I'll be back in just a second to show you what I did. So if you look at this, my slope would be, it's going to cost $10.30 per person. So let's use my fraction though of 31 over 3 because that's going to be easier to multiply by. So let's plug it in. Y equals 31 over 3 times x plus our b. I'm going to plug in this one. So my y is 120. 31 over 3 times 10, which could be like 10 over 1, plus our b. If I multiply, I get 103 1/3. I take it away from both sides, and I'm left with 16.6. So this is my equation. And that's all I've got for you today. See you next time.